powered by the Zapata Brand Studio. This is Straight Outta JerZey with Jersey Jay-Z.
What's up, guys? I'm Joe Zapata here with the only UFC Triple Crown winner, UFC legend, and just an awesome dude, Dan the Beast Severn. How you doing, Dan?
Joe, it's just another crazy day in Crazyville. You know, it's kind of like going, but rest assured, I know that I'm a man, okay, and that and I'm doing all that I can. So yeah.
Now you look great with all your, all the fights you had. How do you feel? How's your any injuries?
I mean, no, I've had injuries over the span of my career, but most people only might know me from my MMA days, or they may only know me from my professional wrestling days. But you got to go back just a few more decades back further than that, because I always say that if you start looking at, I started my engagement in athletics really in junior high. And I was a part of the wrestling team at that point. And then I'll say by my freshman year in high school, the wrestling coach was also like the government teacher. And I was turning in a paper one day and I saw the stack of amateur wrestling news magazines. And I had never seen this magazine before. And I'm like going, Coach, do you care if I perused through a few of these? He's like, no problem. Just make sure they make it back on my desk. No problem. So literally that's when my world opened up to me, because as I was reading these different magazines, it talked about all kinds of different techniques, tactics, all kinds of new cool moves that were in there, nutrition, the mindset, and setting of goals. And I never really had set a goal at that point in time. So one of my goals was I wanted to be the first freshman to make the varsity team, because no freshman had ever made the varsity team. So that was my first one. And the comical story that goes with that is that, like most wrestlers, you think, I want to lose some weight and I want to be this big monster at this lighter weight class, but that's not how it works. When you start missing those meals, stuff like that, you get lightheaded, you start feeling kind of pathetic, and that it's not a great experience. But I went down to 155-pound uniform, and then I challenged upperclassmen, and that 1, 2, 3 years of experience, seasoning, and maturing is huge. And so I got beat out at 155. I went up to 165. I went up to 85. I went up to. I kept going up the ladder till the last weight class to challenge was the heavyweight.
Yes.
Now
you're wrestling. You're wrestling as a young boy. You're wrestling as a young boy, but you're facing older people. That's a lot of mental toughness. A lot of mental toughness. And I heard you had some really impressive mental toughness as a kid.
Oh no! Well, growing up with 7 other siblings, you gotta get tough. I mean, just at the dining room table alone, it's kind of like going. Our little prayer was Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Whoever ate the fastest got the most. Okay.
Wow. So, what interested you in the martial arts?
Well, I mean,
In the judo.
I did judo and I did sambo while I was in college.
Okay.
I mean, if you talk about like the Ultimate Fighting Championships, that type of competition, it just happened. You look at, was that was a 1994 time period. I think that really the very first UFC I think was like December 1993, and the internet was not as prevalent as it is today. The cell phone was not as compact or as easy to carry around. It was like the size I always tell people, the car phone was attached to your car. It actually had a cable on it. And again, a lot of young people, they look at you like going, are you a dinosaur? How is that possible that they actually had a phone? But it was. I mean, it just this all depends on your age and what you experienced at the time. I'm hoping.
Yep. Now, is it true before your 18th birthday you placed in the Olympic trials?
No, I actually, as 18 years of age, I went to my first Olympic trials. Yes.
Oh, okay. Wow. Because that's what I heard.
Yeah.
I heard
So
that.
did I place it? Yes, I placed in it. But I did not. I did not win. I was not. I wasn't what I call a real true contender. But literally, I should say, by my 18th birthday, there's
Mhm.
1976.
Yep. Yeah.
Real, I was starting to turn into that real contender, because I mean that's really when my junior senior of high school is when things really took off for me, and to where I did athletics really as a way to, how am I
Mhm.
going to go to
Mm. Okay.
I'm not going to, I have 7 other siblings. My parents are feeding and clothing 8 children. Is there
Yeah.
money to send off one to college? No. And again, they would never favor like one, because they loved us. They loved us. My parents loved us all. So
Mhm.
it's like, how am I going to do this? So I kept thinking, I heard about, again, reading through these amateur wrestling news magazines, stuff like that. I kept thinking, well, the better I can get, there is this opportunity to get in this full scholarship, possibly to go to college. So again, that was like one of my goals, one of my next goals, not only just make a varsity, but then also to try to go to college and get my college paid for as a elite athlete. And it worked
Mhm.
out.
It worked out, definitely.
Yeah.
Before you were the beast, you were obviously a boy, a child. Growing up, was it tough on you? Was it tough in growing up with 7? I think you have 6 brothers, correct, or 6
No,
siblings?
yes, there's 5 males, 3 females,
Okay,
but
gotcha.
then you look at 5. Okay, you got between the 5 brothers, and then you throw in my father there. You got 6 males alone in the house that
Yeah.
are 6 foot or better,
Mhm.
200 plus pounds or better, and
Mhm.
I mean, when I would bring friends over for lunch or for dinner, and they saw the platters of potatoes, the platters of, there's like 4 or 5 chickens that would be out there, or there's like just a pile of meat and whatever, and my whoever friend was over there, like, wow, what's the occasion? We're like, lunch, dinner. Again, I mean, you laugh about that, but Joe, I mean, like breakfast. Breakfast
Mhm.
was like a military operation. Joe,
Okay.
you might be on the toaster, and knowing that you've got to toast up probably a loaf and a half of toast
That's
alone.
crazy. Wow.
Again, and then someone else is over there cracking eggs, and then you got a whole pan of bacon that's going, or ham that's going. We having a full-fledged farm like that, you learn real quick not to give the animals pet names, because
Okay.
sooner or later they're going to end up on your table. One of my jobs was milking Peggy the milk cow for 8 years.
Okay.
And when Peggy's milk gave out, well, Peggy was turned into hamburger. And I still remember the day that we're all my brothers and sisters and I were on, boo, oh, poor Peggy. And my dad's like, Peggy never tasted so good. So, but that's just the reality. I mean, Joe, let me one more story about that.
All right, sure.
We have chickens, so literally we would bring in probably I don't know, between 300 and 400 or more chicks in the
Okay.
springtime.
Mhm.
And so they got their chicken coop, but then they also have this fenced in yard area that they could get out and get in the ground and things of that nature. And there'll always be roosters that would be chasing you. But the story I'm leading to is that there would be a day that would be set up ahead of time, because my parents were always trying to coordinate stuff with when you guys have athletic things on the weekend or whatever. But on that weekend, that wasn't anything taken athletically. There would be at least twice a year, there would be what we call the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, where between 80 to 100 chickens would be decapitated, and you're plucking feathers. I mean, literally, you're grabbing the legs, you hold back the wings, the other person just pulls the neck on out. Don't get your hands in the way, and you just one chop, and you throw the chicken off the side. The expression, you run around like a chicken with its head cut off. Joe, I have seen hundreds of chickens run around with their head chopped off. And yes, they do run around, and it's kind of unusual that they're capable of doing something like that.
Wow.
But even as I tell you this story, I can smell that smell of these big boiling pots of water that you're dipping the chicken in to peel the feathers off. So, I mean, but a lot of young people, they don't have a clue what I'm talking about because they just go to the grocery store and they buy this nice diced up chicken that they're going to cook, or they just go to the place and it's all cooked and prepared for them. So,
yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
Even to this day, I cook most of my meals. I don't go buy prefab type things. Although, I mean, do I like Kentucky Fried Chicken? Do I like Church's Chicken, stuff like that? Oh, love that stuff. But I think I love the skin more than I do the actual chicken itself because there's something in those 11 herbs and spices that.
You're not still killing chickens today, are you? It's still chopping off their heads.
No. On my property down in Coldwater, I mean, because I travel again, this would be again. This is where when I grew up in New Lothrop, Michigan, is basically on the border of New Lothrop and Montrose, and it's kind of ironic because both of my parents went to New Lothrop School, and for whatever reason, that my parents wanted us to go to the Montrose School, and there's still to this day there's a rivalry between Montrose and New Lothrop schools where they butt heads in athletics, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, wrestling. You know, it's all those kinds of things. And it's my parents had this. The home was on a 3/4 mile dirt road, and it used to have a bridge, but the bridge washed out so many years before. I never knew of a bridge because it had washed out before. I mean, as I grew up, there was never a bridge. The road was always just kind of closed, but living on this borderline and having this closed road, we had an option. Two different buses would show up at the exact same bus stop, and neighbor kids would get on the New Lothrop bus, and then my brothers and I would get on the Montrose bus. So it's like, the running line was that the New Lothrop Booster Club was going to rebuild the bridge so that the Severn boys had to go to the New Lothrop schools because we were such a dominant force in the sport of wrestling. But then, Joe, did you play football in high school?
No, I did not play. I played. I did wrestling and I did baseball.
Okay, but I played football, and I love football way more than I love wrestling. Every 30 seconds, crash, bang, boom, and I mean, Joe, I was an animal when it came to football. I mean, I never came off the field because if there's a kickoff team or punt return team, I'm on those. I'm on every specialty team. I'm on offense. I'm on defense. I even got to the point that I was so good that the coach allowed me to be like the rover tour. If you're in a position and I saw an opportunity, I'll pull you back and I'll put you in my spot and I'll jump right in your spot because I'm going to shoot the gap. I sacked more quarterbacks, but then I would bust up my shoulder pads to where during one game I had to peel off my shoulder pads, find another pair of pads off of somebody else, put them on, go back out there in a different game, splitting my helmet to where my helmet's it's all cracked on up. I got to take off my helmet and I got to find another one. And it's not easy to find a helmet that fit the size of this pumpkin. Okay.
Yeah, I could imagine.
I got comical story after comical story.
I know.
Just life growing up. That's all it is.
Yep. December 16th, 1994, you made your UFC debut against Anthony Macis, and he was in Muay Thai.
Yes, yeah.
Yep. And you beat him with a rear choke. How is it competing in the early days of UFC where there was like no rules? It was totally different than it is today.
Vastly different because today's athletes and what everyone watches on television, they fight underneath the umbrella of MMA, which stands for mixed martial arts. Approximately, I don't know, I think 45 or 47 rules today. Back then, it was known as NHB, which stood for no holds barred. They had two basic rules that they abided by: no biting, no eye gouging, and even then, those were violated at different times. Yes. So it was I always thought it was pretty comical. So that I mean, I got to know like Big John McCarthy, the best known referee at that time, and I've had some really comical moments with him inside the Octagon cage, and he just didn't realize I had such a sense of humor about me to the point that he thought I was actually in the beginning. He thought this guy's nuts because I pulled off one-liners that he would never expect, and like the very first time I ever met the guy, he's in the cage and he's coming over to him, and basically very, very formal the way that he just goes through if you're in trouble, stuff like that. He says, I'll be looking at you. He says, I'll be looking at you to give me a thumbs up or a wink or something like that. Let me know that you're still in a fight. He says, otherwise I'm going to be stopping the fight. I'll give you some couple warnings and stuff like that. So it was always good about that. And then I remember like on the second fight, when he comes back, he comes out, he goes at the very end, he's like, are there any questions? He always finished off his little segment there, are there any questions?
Okay.
And as he started to turn away, a goofy thought just came into my mind, and I simply blurted on out, and I simply said, where did all that money go that I paid for piano lessons, that my parents paid for piano lessons? And he looked back at me, and like, it couldn't come from me because I had my game face on. Okay, Joe. But after match number 2, he comes over and he's doing the same spiel, and he gets to the same line. Are there any questions? And I look right at him, I go, yes. If you just give me the winning lotto ticket numbers, I wouldn't have to do this shit. And he's like, oh my God, this is the same crazy cat that said the last line. Now, again, this used to always be like a little private thing. Then later on in life, I did not know when they mic'd him, but they mic'd him at some point. And that line, are there any questions? And I come up with one of these word problems, one of these mathematical word problems that it stumps everybody when they're in the math class. And John's kind of stumped right there. And he just looks at me and goes, you'll be okay. But the public heard all this, and they're like going, what is this? What does this all mean? Is this must be some subplot that Dan Severn and just it was ironic what people read into this. And it's kind of like I could never have come up with the same line ever again because I was going off the top of my head at the time. So I've always been very comfortable in competition mode because even people would see me in the cage even before the fight. I'm breathing, deep breathing back and forth as I'm walking, keeping myself nice and calm. It's the calm before the storm. But I was the same way all through my amateur wrestling career, stuff like that. That I would be never really looked at my opponent. I just basically as they're making their announcements again, I just walk around again, deep breathing back and forth, and then when it's time to get to that, I just boom and I focus on you. You're my attention at that point in time.
Yeah. You should be a stand-up comedian. You should be a comedian, stand-up comedian. You should be.
Yeah, honestly, I just did 2 weekends ago. I was actually did because I'm doing more and more of these Q&A type of things.
Yeah. Yep.
And as the people are asking me these different questions, they were just dying laughing and like going, they like. Dan Severn, the Beast. I go, how would you ever get that nickname there in the first place? I go, you're actually a very comical, very, very relatable type of person. You make really some pretty good comical sense out of life. And I go, well, that's just always been, I always tell people, I got that from my mother.
Okay.
My father, a very intimidating man.
Okay.
He had the ability when he walked in the room, if I'm slouched in my chair and he walked in the room, you sat up. If a conversation was taking place and my father came in the room, silence. He wasn't a mean man or nothing like that. He just had presence about him. And so it's like, I would tell people I had my father's dashingly good, intimidating looks, but then I had my mother's ability to fly by the seat of my pants.
Yeah. How did you get the name The Beast?
Well, that was given to me by the legendary NFL Hall of Famer Jim Brown.
Oh wow!
He he was one of the play-by-play commentators, and the UFC, it was struggling in the beginning because, again,
Yeah.
first off, you had a lot of states were trying to do away with it. They're saying it's too barbaric and that, so they had to slowly add more and more rules to it, and it was certain states would allow it, other states would not allow it, so it really struggled in the beginning, and so they brought a very high-profile football personality, Jim Brown. And even it was great. I got a chance to meet him because I knew who he was. I mean, he was one of the most punching running backs ever. I mean, I always tell people that he didn't run around people; he ran over people.
Yep.
And so it was like pretty cool that I ended up getting the ring name The Beast from him. But then the Beast has a lot of negative connotations. And I'm not a negative person. I'm a very positive, upbeat type of a person. So I had to come up with an acronym that I could live with. So the word THE stood for Dan Severn. I'm a teacher, humanitarian, and I'm an educator. And actually, I actually have a teaching degree from Arizona State University. So Joe, never judge a book by its cover, okay? And my message, Beast, was my message to young people to believe in yourself, to educate yourself, to adjust your everyday attitude, to study hard, and then to teach others because you can't take it with you. Yep. So that was, I came up with the Beast acronym, and a lot of people were like that, and I had to put on even on the back of my t-shirt where it just shows me terrorizing on the front and then shows the Beast acronym on the back side.
Which fight tested you mentally more than physically? Which fight would you think that you mentally was tougher than physically?
Well, Joe, in a lot of ways, each one, how do I put this now? Joe, for my first UFC, I did a 5-day training camp.
Okay, wow.
Now think about that. I only trained for 5 days.
That's it?
An hour and a half a day. That's it.
Wow.
Never training to strike another individual. I had guys that I had half a dozen little workout partners, and I did this in my own little gym.
Oh wow!
And again, that's where I would simply just, as they start throw stuff, I would just parry, clinch, take down, and then basically slap on some type of a amateur wrestling move, turn it a little bit illegal, and there you have it.
Wow.
Or I would simulate a quick little, maybe like a hammer strike or something like that, to where I never hit them, but I would swing around and just bring it up there, and I go to touch, and then their eyes get really big. They're like, "Dude, you could have." I know I could have, but it's like going, I'm not going to, because first off, what are you being paid to train here right now with me for these couple of days? Nothing. So it's kind of like going, you've got to go back to work, and you can't go back to work if you got this big old, your eyes half bulged out here, like you got a smashed up nose here, your chicken wing arms all ripped off. I go, no, I can't hurt you. There's no money, and that's where I ran probably one of the safest gyms you could be, because I said that line so many times at the beginning of each practice when I was trying to teach others the same type of a sport. The only time I actually ever had a chance to train is I was always the coach, and I'm teaching them how to blend wrestling and morph it into this MMA type of a sport, because that's what my background was. I always tell people, well, I had this in the beginning, amateur wrestling, but when I say just amateur wrestling, a very broad spectrum of amateur wrestler, because I was a high school wrestler, a collegiate wrestler, but then I also was an international freestyle wrestler, Greco-Roman wrestler. Freestyle is similar to what we do in high school and college, except the fact that there are still more wicked throws that you can throw, like the very first match, Anthony Macias. That's a belly back suplex is what it is. Professional wrestling, they refer to it as the suplex, So again, it's a similar move that they do in professional wrestling, but it's done differently because you want it to be a little bit more forgiving Because professional wrestling, I hope I'm not bursting any bubbles here on the show today. Professional wrestling is predetermined. We already know, Joe, when you and I go out there, we know who's going to win.
Yes.
About how long into the match it's going to take and by what kind of a move, because we want to keep you looking strong or me looking strong, or maybe the fact that you just defeated me, but you defeated me with maybe a dirty move or an illegal move. And so it keeps me looking strong because you beat me by an illegal move. But it's the storylines.
Yeah.
And,
because
and it's a multi-million-dollar operation. Correct. Where they run these weekly shows that lead up to every monthly pay-per-view. But they have to have, again, they've got, 10, 12 or more storylines taking place, knowing that somewhere in the next 30 days in between shows, someone is going to get hurt. Not deliberately. Well, again, sometimes it is deliberate. So, again, I'll take that back. But most of the time, it's because athletes are not continuing to hone their skills. So if you're sitting on the shelf and if you're not getting in the gym, it's not like you can go right back over there and rack that weight and hit those heavy maxes again and again. No, you have to keep perpetual training. It's the same way that I relate that to these professional wrestlers. A lot of them that they'll be out there, they're not honing their skills, or they might be underneath the influence of who knows what.
Yes.
Because
that's right.
A lot of them are hurt. They're on pills, muscles relaxers, working for an organization like the WWE/WWF. They're on the go a great deal. So sometimes they need a pick-me-up to get me going. They need something to put me down at night. So when you start thinking in 24 hours, how many little doodads are you putting down your pipe right there? It's like going, and there is times when these wrestlers, they don't show up to morning call, simply to find them in bed, dead.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So,
did when you had a great wrestling, obviously amateur wrestling career, UFC legend, then you went into wrestling, pro wrestling. Did Vince McMahon come after you? Did he ask you to come in to WWE at the time, whatever?
Yeah. I was, again, just so you know, my timetable, I was actually a professional wrestler first.
Okay.
Again, as of that, 19, when this happened here right now? Right around that 1992 time period, yes. The United States Olympic Committee came down with a new ruling that allowed athletes to be both amateur and professional simultaneously. Yes. So again, that was right around that 1992 time period. So again, the UFC did not exist yet. So I was already starting to pursue my professional wrestling. I was still working with a local, a state amateur wrestling organization known as the Michigan Wrestling Club. And I was the coach. And then the president was a gentleman by the name of Dennis Kasperwitz. So when Dennis did his professional wrestling on the weekends, he was known as professional wrestler Denny Cass. Now, he's long gone, but we would have our meetings and we would discuss all the stuff we had to do with the Michigan Wrestling Club. But then when that was concluded, I'm like, okay, I need to speak to Denny Cass now. I go, I need to get into this because, well, again, try to make a long story short, I came down to Coldwater, Michigan for a job opportunity.
Okay.
And I sold and bought homes because of a man's word and a handshake. When a man's word and a handshake meant something.
Yeah, you're right.
Nowadays, you need triplicate of paperwork, and even then, you just need a badass attorney anymore. Yeah. Speak softly, but wield that big stick right there. No, it is a changed world that we lived in. But again, I relocated to Coldwater, Michigan for a job opportunity. And I even asked guy, I go, how much time do I have? 2 weeks. So literally in 2 weeks' time, I sold my home in Owasso, Michigan. I was an assistant wrestling coach at Michigan State at the time. I sold my home and I bought a home. I had three realtors looking for a home down in the cold water vicinity. And I gave him, the wish list that my wife and I wanted. And we passed this home. I mean, literally, where I'm speaking to you from, I'm actually inside my office. You have to excuse the debris beds that is behind me here. But it's I passed this property half of the time. I saw this for sale sign, and I go, stop, pull over. I go, let's go back. I go like, what's the story on this place? And they're like, well, it has nothing to do with what you and your wife are looking for. I go, humor me, set me up the appointment. I want to see the place. So they set up, and literally somewhere in the next day or so, I toured the property. I mean, I did not fall in love with the house. The house was just an old 2-story home that had, I don't know if you know what the term is called, a Michigan style basement, but it's like, it's not a basement that you would entertain in. It had the furnace and things of that nature. It had an old coal stove originally in it, but then they have a furnace into it, and it even had the coal chutes and stuff. Like I said, just an older home. I fell in love with the outer building. I fell in love with the barn because it's an old hip roof barn that that they don't make anymore. And then it was a storage facility that I'm talking to you into right now, 10,000 square feet.
Wow.
And prices were a whole lot different then.
Oh, yeah.
Than they are now, especially in the last, I'll say the past year.
Yes.
How things have escalated on price alone. I don't know how young people do it, but that's a whole different segment.
I know.
So I ended up buying this place, and I slowly converted it room by room by room into a beautiful training facility. And literally, even when the UFC finally came out, for several years, probably maybe the first decade or more, I had a much greater facility than what the UFC had. And I'm thinking, and this is all coming out of my pocket. You know, I don't have sponsors or nothing like that. It's all coming out of me and my ability to work and hustle.
Yeah, 100%. Wow. So how did you get into WWF with Vince? How did Vince McMahon get you in?
Again, I'm not certain how they heard about me in the beginning, but it was like almost at the same time. Again, I'm doing I'm using my real name and just wrestling, and all of a sudden, I don't know how it was because I was wrestling along, and because of the early on exposure I started getting through the UFC. Even though I started my professional wrestling career first, they played off of each other because as I'm getting this exposure, and then people realizing he's a shooter and a worker. Now, again, some of your audience may not understand that term, but these are professional terms where a shooter means you're from the real deal, and a worker means you're a professional wrestler. You make it look like the real deal without actually hurting each other. Yeah. So I had this ability to do both. And all of a sudden, I'm getting a phone call from both WCW, existed at the time, and WWF, as now known as the WWE. So it was like, Vince and them, they first brought me in, and then it was kind of like, I don't know, it wasn't a great meeting that took place, because it's kind of like going, they had no clue as to what they wanted really to do with me. But I said, I met in their office and then all of a sudden I get a phone call from Eric Bischoff, WCW. Okay. So I go down and I visit with them. And now, and Eric, he's got this diabolical plan of what they want to do and stuff like that with me. And it's pretty laid out. But somehow Vince's crew found out about my other meeting, and then also they agreed to all my terms. Wow. I did not want to be a full-time wrestler. A full-time wrestler, you're wrestling, gosh, I'm thinking probably 200 plus matches, maybe a year. Yeah. But you're on the road a great deal. Yeah. I wanted to have my schedule ahead of time, because I'm trying to blend a family, because you got to realize this all happens. I go into my first cage at 37. I'm fighting in the UFC at 37. You don't start a career at 37. You start thinking about retirement at 37. Okay, so Vince didn't know how old I was. Either. And again, I'm trying to think. I was in my 40s.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have known, I think probably around 44, 45, something like that. If you would have known how old I was, you probably would never have taken me on. But I did not look and or act my age like now. I still don't. It's like sometimes some of my siblings they're like, Daniel, are you ever going to grow up? Because I comically tell them throughout my entire UFC career, throughout my entire MMA career, the color of that hair, mustache, and eyebrows was just for men number 45. I kept it dark and dashly. I probably still have a box of it laying back in my training facility somewhere back in the archives there. I probably have a box from 20 years ago still. It's like going, it's like only within, I'll say, during that COVID period of time that you couldn't get to a barbershop. You couldn't you couldn't get to a lot of the places you couldn't because the world was locked down. So I basically I look like the wild man from Borneo. I had this almost like an afro on myself, and I let it go gray during that time frame. It's like kind of like going, I am 67 years of age. I shouldn't really be running around with jet black hair at this point in time. I think people might be out to me by then.
People don't realize you're Dan the Beast Severn. You're excellent Hall of Fame fighter. You're great. But you have this side to you where you're just such a nice guy. People think you're like a killer, but you look, you're intimidating, you're everything. But when you talk to you, you're just like the nicest guys.
Well, again, Joe, a lot of people have said the exact same thing, just like that. They're like, dude, are you on drugs? They're like, because they all say the same thing, like going, how do you turn on this other killer persona stuff like that? It's kind of going, well, it's kind of going, I've always had that ability of, I know when it's time to turn things on. Going back to my high school career. Yeah, I had things going good for me to where I had college coaches starting to look at me, and I just wanted to keep scaling it up to know that I got more and more opportunities. I wanted to know that I had full scholarships, not just to one place, but to multitude of places. And it worked for me because I literally, as I would walk onto the mat, I would look at you. And you are the person that's in between me and my success. And it's kind of going, and I simply look at you as a trespasser. You are on my piece of real estate right now. And what am I going to do to drive you off of my piece of real estate, all within the legal confines of the rules and that. I was good. I was probably one of very, very, very few wrestlers that ever read the rule book of amateur wrestling. Wow. And I know again, and honestly, I was a worker before I ever heard of the term a worker, because I simply understood how to manipulate these rules to where I always had the center of the mat. Again, amateur wrestling career, I always had the whereabouts where the center of the mat was always at my back, and I have got you moving to the outside parameters. So it always looks like you might be trying to escape or elude competition. And even when I was shooting stuff like that, I would shoot in on you and look to do takedowns and things of that nature. Sorry about that. No problem. I might just turn that down real quick. There we go. Again, I would be shooting at you on the borderline, stuff like that, so that I could still score, even if as long as the action was starting in bounds. I could take you out of bounds, and it even got to the point that I could take you up into 2 or 3 rows of the bleachers. As long as I kept the action going and still could score, I could still technically score points. So I understood the rules. I understood how to manipulate those rules to my benefit. And again, I was going, and I simply knew psychologically, if I can get 1 or 2 cautions on you, and now you're starting to lose points, now you're going to start taking some more riskier moves towards like going, I'm going to capitalize on this. So again, I was using psychological warfare, but then I was also using that physical warfare on top of that.
Now, when you would
Massacre was off the chain.
Yeah. So when you would talk to the referee at like a joking way, was that a way to relax you before you're get in there and kill the man or rip him apart?
Well, again, I all I ever did that with Big John. I got to know him, stuff like that. So that was, but I shouldn't say that because I know that I have traveled. I've traveled so many different places, and worked for so many different promoters. I know I probably come up with different little one-liners here or there. Again, with the only other story I had about like with Big John was Ken Shamrock was on top of me. He had a full mount, I think for like 5 whole minutes. He had a full mount position on top of me, and every time that he tried to rear up and then hammer strike on down something like that, I was holding on his lats. So literally, when he pushed up and tried to hammer, he literally has to pull me up with him.
That's a lot of weight.
I'm taking a physical toll. I'm taking a psychological toll.
Yes.
Now, again, out of the corner of my left eye, I see Big John's big feet over here. I'm underneath Ken's basically his chest here right now. I pop out from underneath Ken's body, and I look right up at Big John. I go, "It's a hell of a way to make a buck." And I duck right back underneath there. And literally he shakes his head and he's dumbfounded. I could pull off a one-liner and I'm in mid-battle. But the funny thing about it is it broke Ken's concentration.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He kind of he freaked out for a moment, and that's when I reversaled and I returned the favor.
Yeah, that's crazy. Do any of the current fighters reach out to you?
Severn is a very complex individual, or maybe I just got too many loose screws here. I'm not certain here yet, there, Joe.
I mean, if I was a fighter today, I would reach out to you for advice. I mean, do any of the fighters reach out to you to kind of?
Oh yeah, just because of social media. I mean, I'll say that a whole new audience is starting to learn about me, only because. A lot of the social media stuff has only really started evolving more and more in the last few years. And I'm the dinosaur, so I have to have younger people that are around me that they understand. I mean, like an algorithm. I don't have a clue what an algorithm is or even how to even bring it together right now. I go, give it to me in some layman terms. If you need something goofy, stupid, or comical, I go, I'm your guy here right now. And I go, because this guy, I can take almost any serious type thing because I've been there, done that. I mean, where I've had these goofy situations. I mean, I've had, I've got some classic pictures with Butterbean. We have this silver platter of brownies, and we both got this game faces like we're about ready to tear each other's head off for the silver plate of brownies, He's a character as well. He's a character.
Yeah, he is. He's a character. Yeah. You do this show called Beast Panther on Instagram, and you give answer a question. What is that about?
Well, again, this is something more and more people have been asking questions, and I kept thinking, well, we need to come up with something where I'm not good about just going out there and just look at me, and just talk about me. To me, it's like going, if someone was to ask me a question, it's a lot easier for me to respond to and give them an answer. But usually, as I'm doing the Q&A segment there, I will go off into like a historical type of a response or story. I'll go into like story time because I've lived such a long life now with so many decades of competition.
Yeah,
that I have usually a story I can tell about that. I mean, obviously, from what you've had a chance to interact with me today, you can see what a storyteller I am here right now, and you just would not realize that I'm just this goofy of an individual. But it's kind of like going wrestling. Amateur wrestling is hard, and it was one of the unique thing was my high school wrestling coach Tom Castell, again, who's long gone. He had this thing at the very end. We would have to run, I think, I don't know, is it like 10 sprints? But if we could tell him a joke or do a joke or skit or something like that, if we could do something at the end of practice, And if it made him laugh, we only had to do 2 sprints. We no matter what, we still had to do 2 of these wall sprints. And but if we couldn't make it, we had 10.
Mhm.
So rest assured, we went through a hard workout. We want to try to make him laugh. And and again, he actually had the title. His name was Fat Cat.
Mm. Okay.
Because he stood about, again, 5'6", and probably weighed, I'd say, 350 pounds. So he was built like a round sphere, is what he was. Again, I love the man to death, because like I said, he helped for me to inspire me to do things, even though he physically could not get out there to show you a single move. He recognized talent inside of the room. And if you're the best double leg guy, you're teaching the double leg. If this guy's the best fireman's carry, he's teaching that. Severn, you went to camp this past summer. What'd you learn? Well, coach, I learned this thing called cradles. Well, show us cradles. And I'm showing, and literally the more that I had to get out there in front and teach people, the better I got with it as well. So,
okay. All right. How does your wife deal with your craziness?
Well, my very first combat thing, again, correct me if I'm wrong here now, I've been fat my app here, like, I went to a tough man competition.
Okay.
Okay, do you remember the old tough man?
Yeah. Yes, sure I do.
It'd be 2-day competition. Friday night, they do one match on Friday night, and then Saturday, whatever's left in your group, you take on. Tough man only had 2 weight classes. It had something like, I don't know, I think it was like 190 pounds and under, and then there was anything over. Yep. And I was in that category of anything over.
Yes.
So I remember I did not tell a single family member.
Really?
I
Wow.
basically packed my duffel bag. I needed $1,000. I had to take care of my mortgage payment, and I had to keep food on the table.
Okay.
From my family. And so I go up to the Battle Creek, Michigan, which, again, from Coldwater here, you're looking at 45 minutes. I'm in Battle Creek, Michigan.
Okay.
And these guys, all these other guys, they're showing up. They got either gym trunks, or they got boxing trunks, and they're wearing tank tops or something that looks athletic and stuff like that. Here I show up wearing amateur wrestling shoes, which, again, they kind of look like boxing shoes.
Okay.
But I'm wearing an amateur wrestling singlet, and my hair is dark. And I got dark hair. I got a dark mustache. Again, pre-dyeing days. So it's like this was my real color, my hair. So I'm walking out there. I've never balled up my fist against my fellow man. And I look like John L. Sullivan.
Okay.
That's why I'm holding my hands. But I got there early enough in that day, as I'm watching them setting up the boxing ring. It was not a boxing ring. It was a professional wrestling ring. I had already started doing my professional wrestling training.
Wow.
I was going over to Lima, Ohio. I'm with Al Snow and all these guys, and I'm already inside the ring. And I know the dynamics of a professional wrestling ring versus what a boxing ring, and how the ropes are like rubber bands.
Yes.
So I'm out there with this big old hoss, and when the referee basically starts the match, he's out there throwing these big old haymakers. I'm like, holy shit! I simply I run into him with both my gloves, hit him in the chest. I got him backpedaling, and I'm aiming him right for the ropes, knowing that there's a rubber band action going to take place. So as I hit, and we hit the ropes, I'm thinking the ropes are going out, and I'm thinking a nurse is about to come back. As he starts to come back, I wrap him right around the body, and I threw him in a belly to belly. Wow! Again, another amateur wrestling move where he face plants. Okay, intimacy that's nice because you're hitting on the back of your head, back of your shoulders, stuff like that. He face plants, and this is on a canvas type of a thing there. So he hits, and I mean, he's discombobulated, and the crowd explodes. I think I'm about to be disqualified. So I'm looking down at Art Dorr. He was the promoter of Tough Man. Art Dorr looked like old Wolfman Jack, had this big mop of gray hair and had this gray beard on and stuff like that. And he's wearing this tuxedo shirt. He jumps up out of his chair. I look down at him. He looks back up at me. He hears the crowd, and he looks right back at me. He goes, "Well, throw him again." I'm like, going, "Game on. I can do this." And literally, so I only do the one match on a Friday night. Saturday night, it's a crazy crowd. Fast forward, I go through the other 3 or 4 guys, and I end up winning. When it's all done, he's paying me. He goes, "Son," he goes, "You don't know what you did last night." He says, "When you threw that big old hoss," he said, "I had a so-so crowd." He goes, "Word got out about some hillbilly in the ring who's throwing people around like bales of hay." And he goes, "You sold out my arena tonight." Wow,
that's impressive.
So he's like going. He goes, "I thank you for that." Now, was there an extra 100 inside there? No, but
no.
I mean, he did pay me an awfully nice compliment. And I go, I made money the whole old-fashioned way. I had to beat people up and take it.
Yeah.
So, and that's where there's part of this mentality that's been in me. It's like each time I stepped into that octagon cage, just kind of going, do I have any health benefits? No.
Yeah, no, you don't.
Because I'm working for myself. I don't have no health benefits. Wow. I didn't have no life insurance policies or anything like that. I mean, at that point in time, so it was okay. I had to make myself invincible.
Wow.
I can't get hurt because I can't. I'm not going to end up going to the hospital, stuff like that. Don't have none of that. I can take care of the nicks, the scratches, a swelled up eye or something like that. I can handle all that kind of stuff. So again, I went that way for several years before I finally, I have all that stuff now, so I can be reckless abandonment now. The sad part is I'm probably living the most conservative lifestyle now.
Yeah. Who would you consider your Mount Rushmore of fighters today, or maybe all time?
I mean, it's hard to say because every
I put you on that list. You're on that list.
Every year there's standout athletes.
Yes,
it just all depends on what year you want to look at as to who stands out there. I mean, it's back when I was doing it, it really boiled down to more. They classified you as either being a striker or being a grappler. Yes. As a striker, you could have been boxer, kickboxer, Muay Thai, karate, kung fu, and then that grappler, you could have been judo, sumo, sambo, wrestling, freestyle wrestling, Greco-Roman. I mean, it just basically they just had the 2 categories. So I always had that categorization of a grappler. But I always tell people that I brought the sport of amateur wrestling really to the forefront. When you fast forward to today and you look at the various champions, you're going to see a lot more of them that come from the pedigree of being an amateur wrestler.
Yes.
Than anyone else right now. Especially, again, some of the champions you have right there, they're doing fantastic, which again, wrestling it's a very individualized sport, even though it's a team competition. Only one person gets to walk out there on that mat each and every time. So I always say it's what has helped me out in life because it's always been that loner type of aspect.
Yeah, you and Don Fry are great friends. I love your podcast. How is Don as a person? Is he great?
I mean, basically what you see on the air is pretty much always he's a kaji. He's a kaji old fart. Basically is what I can say there about him. And I mean, but I was coaching at Arizona State.
Okay.
When I first got a chance to really meet and know Don, and actually he lived with a couple of my younger brothers, so I know Don much like a younger brother.
Yep.
And it was kind of comical because even before we started doing something with the podcast, people were showing all these different segments of these 2 mustachio men, Don Fry and myself, and like. What is it about the mustache and the cage fighting world that these 2 guys are doing? But I mean, Don Fry has the number 1 most viewed combat match, and that's his match against Takayama in Pride.
Yeah,
where opening 45 seconds. Once the referee says to fight, as they kind of like jogging towards each other, once they get within arm's reach, they're throwing gloves. And as they're throwing gloves, they literally, I'm not sure who reached out first, but one person grabbed like a collar tie and he's punching. And then the other guy grabs his collar tie. So literally simultaneously each guy is holding the back of each other's head and they're just punching each other face. And now it's like this test of wills of, okay, you son of a gun, I'm punching you in the face. Are you going to quit? And they're like, nope, I'm going to keep punching you in the face until you quit. Who won? Well, the audience won because they witnessed something that they'll never, ever see again. But see, after I saw that, I was angry and I called, even though it was 2 weeks after the fact, I still called up Don and I'm cursing him out and stuff like that. I go, Don, that's not how you're supposed to fight. You're supposed to get in, get the job done, or get in, get yours, and then get back out again. But at the same token, but I knew him as one of the wrestlers. So I as a wrestling coach at the time, I was I'm a single guy, so I'm going out with my athletes, and I'm like the mother hen watching over them to make certain, okay, one go. They always had to check in with me when I know that they're leaving, because again, this was still the era that if you're going into a fight, we're going to say, come on, let's step outside, okay? And then you step aside, you thumped each other a couple of times, you come right back on in. So again, it was civilized at that point. So it was like each of the wrestlers, they would come on over to them, they're checking in with me, and then when I get my leader, like, coach, I'm leaving out. Okay, good, okay.
Goodbye.
So and then but then Don periodically would get into a little bit of mischievous problems, and had to step outside. So as he step outside, he'd take his shirt up and hand it to me because he didn't want to get his shirt all tore up. And I'm standing there, and then now a couple of the other guys there with their buddy, they're looking at me like, hey, dude, you're not gonna be jumping in on this. I go, no. I'm here to make certain none of you alls jump in here. I go, my man's good to go. I go, matter of fact, you want to lay a wager on what's about to happen? Because I already knew Don was a bonehead. I already knew that. So he kept proving it. I mean, I the fact that he was involved in being I forget what the word. It's not a blacksmith, but when you go out and you're shoeing horses and things. There's a different word for it, but Don actually literally did that. I mean, he worked on the anvil and he would shoe horses. So I'm thinking, in life, are you gonna be the hammer or are you gonna be the anvil?
Yep, exactly. They had a Mark Kerr movie, Smashing Machine. We need a Dan the Beat Severn movie. We need one of your life stories.
Would that be a comedy, or I'm not sure what kind of a movie that would be.
I think it would be a comedy, definitely.
Ironically that you say it, because even before the Smashing Machine came out, I do have a couple of different groups that are speaking to me, but they're to the point they're like going, as they've heard countless stories, they're like going, there's no way we can put this into a movie. There's too much of it. I mean,
wow,
Joe,
your life is wow.
Yeah, well, Joe, the one story. And again, I'm trying to think of it. I don't think I mentioned to it in this interview just now. But did I talk about 17 matches in one day?
No, you didn't. 17 matches in one day.
All right. All right. In high school, again, this is. I think I'm going into. Well, this is taking place in my senior year. I used to, again, I was a hardware collector as well. Not only am I want to win, I'm a hardware collector. So if there's an outstanding wrestler award, or if there's a most pins award, I'm looking to try to win this. And again, that's where pins to me always meant so much more, because if you get pinned, somebody has that psychological edge over you. Because if you walk out on that mat again, you think, oh my God, he pinned me last time. So you're not exactly thinking the most optimistic type of thoughts right now. You're thinking a little bit more in a pessimistic type way. So I always liked having that upper edge. So anyway, I was jumping into different weight classes, trying to get more matches. And then it got down to the point that I went to one national, this was a state tournament for my weight class. And there were there were like, I don't know, 7 other people. And so when I jumped on there, 8 even numbers, we all get matches. And I asked the matchmaker, please put me to the very top, because I'll never get any buys. Nobody usually wants to be put to the top. They usually want to be a bottom, because that means you'll get a buy. So I know it could be another couple hours. So I go back up to my hotel room, kicking back for a little bit. So now tournament's getting ready to start. I'm heading back on down. I've got my duffel bag. I've got my red singlet. I've got my blue singlet. So I'm heading over to the wall chart to find out who is my first match going to be and what color singlet will I have to be putting on. And I go to the wall chart, and all 7 other men withdrew.
Wow.
I won a state title, and I never stepped on a mat.
Wow.
Now going back to the 17 matches in one day, this was a little bit earlier in my career, to where, again, I'm trying to get more notoriety. I'm trying to get more matches, and I'm trying to win more pins, awards, and things of that nature. So I went the junior age group, which is 18 years and under, 198, 220, and heavyweight, 3 weight classes.
Yeah. Yep.
Then I went open weight class, which is anything over 18 years of age, 198, 220, and heavyweight. So I'm going 6 weight classes right now.
Wow.
Most gymnasiums only hold 3 mats.
Yeah, that's right.
I could be wrestling on mat number 1 at 198, and they might be calling me on deck for mat number 2 at 220, and they might be calling me in the hole on mat number 3 for heavyweight.
Wow.
Knowing that at the moment that the announcer will go, Dan Severn must report now to mat number 2 or mat number 3, they start a stopwatch. You have 5 minutes to report. If you don't report within that 5 minutes, automatic forfeiture.
Oh, wow.
So I'd be on mat number 1, knowing that I got to pin this dude to get back over to mat number 2, to try to pin this dude, then to get over to mat number 3. And again, I'm all by myself. I've got my little, I don't know, probably a little Gatorade bottle, a little water bottle, and I got a couple little snacky poos in my duffel bag and stuff like that. And I'm going from one mat to next mat. I got no corner man or nothing like that. I'm just all by myself. And at the end of the day, 17 matches later, I walk out there with 3 gold medals. I think like a most pins award and an outstanding wrestler award. And I set my course for any and every college that was worth their weight in salt at that. In 1976, they were after me. So I set myself up nicely, but also I helped set my other siblings up there as well, because they were really sought after, and they were all, again, out of the 5 males, all of us were multiple state champions. So that was good. And the youngest one, my brother Rod, was the best, because he was a 3-time state champion.
Wow. Well, that's why you're one of the greatest of all time. I want to be respectful of your time. We have an hour in. I know you got a busy stuff to do, but thank you. Maybe we could do a part 2 sometime. You know, I hope you come up this way so I can take you out to eat.
Yeah, Joe. I mean, obviously, you see by now, Dan Severn has got the gift of gab, and I right part, because I do want people to understand this, that in my senior year of high school, that microphone was being pushed in my face more and more. They're like, "How are you able to do this? How are you able to do that?" And I'm like, I'd never wanted the attention. I did not want to be in the camera light. I did not want to have these microphones. And again, my interviews were horrible back then. It's like, wrestle, me, I like to wrestle. I mean, scholarship. I mean, it just, I did have, I took a speech class in my senior year in high school, and then took another speech class my freshman year in college, because as it continued on, because even my freshman year, I went 34-0, pinning 24 of my opponents. Again, I set multiple NCAA records before a knee injury sidelined me. Yeah. So again, it was just, I had one of those Cinderella freshman years there, as well as like going like I'm just a wrecking machine.
Well, you should have been a stand-up comedian.
Well,
and that's your calling. You should have been a comedian.
But Joe, I'm still here. I still got the calling right now. I tell people that because again, just last weekend, I had so many other people that going. They're like, I love your stories. They're very entertaining. I go, the way that you tell them, I said, that's just simply life, you know?
Yeah.
So who knows what Dan Severn's next career might be.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor. Are you going to come up to Jersey anytime soon? Maybe we can get together.
You know, I mean, honestly, I live out of a planner. I've lived out of a planner since my junior year in high school. And I think I said earlier that it was easier back then because all I was doing was simply trying to line up my weekend tournaments and what wrestling camps I was going to go to. Now it's year round.
Yeah. You do wrestling shows. I see you go to the wrestling shows sometimes.
I do professional wrestling shows. I go to MMA shows. I do a lot of seminars, but I'm doing more Q&A type of segments because, again, the UFC runs every single Saturday. So sometimes I'll have a group that will simply bring me on in, and I will I'll do something before they go to a UFC type of viewing party. So I'm part of a UFC viewing party, but it's kind of like just like a smaller type of a quaint affair to where you might have 20, 30 people tops, and easily that they can ask me questions, interaction, and then when you get there, when you got a lot more, it's harder to hear, harder to interact. So
well, you still look great. I mean, you look great, look fabulous for your age. Keep traveling, keep making people laugh. Hopefully we can get together again. Dan, thank you so much. Like and subscribe. Go to @Devon on Instagram, thebeast.com, and you can see everything is Podcast with Don Fry. Thank you so much, Dan. You're the best. Talk to you later.
Started from nothing. Jersey streets, we owned it. Jay-Z